Hello, my name is Opal Singleton, and this is the Protect and Prevent podcast. It is brought to you by an organization called Million Kids, millionkids.org. And that is an organization that has been in existence more than 15 years. It is in Southern California, but we certainly serve all across the United States and even out of the country in several cases. We've been doing this over the last 15 years, and this podcast this week, I really want to focus on our new book. The book is called Digital Warfare: Our Kids on the Front Line. This has been a true labor of love for nearly a year. And it took that long to write. It's my third book. And it took that long to write this book because everything is changing very, very quickly. And just as we thought we got to the end, something new came out. And so this book, it is on Amazon, it is on a Kindle, and it's also in paperback on Amazon. If you want the audio version or the PDF download, which is quite a bit cheaper, you can get that at millionkids.org. And I highly urge you to reach out and get that book and then share it with everyone you know. So the book is called Digital Warfare: Our Kids on the Front Line. And I am the author of it, although we've had input from the rest of the Million Kids team and heavily from Dina Murray that handles all of our marketing. So why is it called Digital Warfare? Well, everything changed. Everything changed completely in the last 4 to 5 years. I was thinking to myself, who needs to read this book? Well, absolutely parents do, parents and even grandparents, but I hope pastors, I hope sports coaches, law enforcement in a big, big way. On top of it, educators, teachers, and counselors, and school resource officers really need to understand it. You know, you think that you know all about sextortion, and you kind of think, well, I keep an eye on my kid and I've had the talks with my kid and like that. But here's the reason for the book. Everything changed in the last 4 years. Let me ask you, do you know what financial sextortion is? I'll give you a hint. It's focused mostly on teenage boys. And there have been over 40 young guys who are just incredibly fine young men that have ended up taking their own lives. And in almost every one of those cases, the parents, of course, are absolutely devastated. But they will say, I never heard the words financial sextortion. If you're a youth pastor, if you're an educator, if you're a person that works with families, I highly urge you, if nothing else, purchase the book and listen to chapter 10, because it is all about how the world changed when the entire world connected by internet, and we developed a crime that we never heard of. Another word that you may not have heard of that you should know is scam farms, SCAM, scam farms. If you haven't and are ready to buy the book, then at least go to YouTube and look up scam farms. And you will see how our kids, and by the way, our senior citizens, and anybody who is in the cryptocurrency world, is really in danger because of scam farms. How about the word nudify sites? Have you heard of that? Because we have one whole chapter dedicated to artificial intelligence, deep fakes, and nudify sites. Did you know there are more than 60 nudify sites? And we find this out because kids in high schools and middle schools found out that they could access them, and they used them to harm their fellow students. So that's a word that I think everybody ought to know. I think that few parents, especially security people at school, recognize the dangers of geolocation software and the power of that enabled to reach our kids. How about the idea of understanding the power of open AI? on our kids. You know, if your child is on character AI at all, that's very important that you understand that a good portion of characters that are created on character AI are not created by people who work for the company, but in fact, anybody and everybody around the world can access open AI technology and create a character which your child begins to share all of their personal secrets with. The same kind of thing on Roblox. So many people will say to me, you know, Roblox seems like it's okay, but then I hear about these things that are going on out there. And they don't realize that only 1 out of 8 of those games are literally created by someone not connected to Roblox. They are independent developers. And these are the kinds of things you're going to learn when you read the book, Digital Warfare. How about E2EE, or end-to-end encryption, and the role that plays with your child? Because what you're going to see, I'll just give you a hint right off the bat, is your child meets somebody online, and one of the first things they do is they say, let's talk offline, let's go to da 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 da. And they will get them on an app that is encrypted. That makes it so law enforcement can't prosecute and you can't know. And it is those kinds of things that I think is so critical in this book. How about the idea of F2P games, free to play games, and what impact that has? If your child is a big gamer, you need to know about freemiums and F2P games and how predators use the free to play games to go in and build a relationship with your child and begin to manipulate. So that's some of the reasons why I would encourage you to buy the book and get involved. The book is called Digital Warfare, Our Kids on the Front Line. And you can just go to Amazon and put in Digital Warfare, Our Kids on the Front Line. You can get, the Kindle version on it if you want. Or if you want the audio version, I actually read the book and recorded it so that you can maybe put it somewhere on one of your devices while you're waiting in traffic, especially if you're in Southern California. You do a lot of that, or New York or Chicago or any of the big cities. And I would highly encourage you to do that. So Digital Warfare is a labor of love for me. It is my third book. My first books were all about how kids were accessed and groomed. It was called Seduce, the Grooming of America's Teenagers. And then my second book was all about societal shift, a world without borders, a home without walls. And my book, Societal Shift, is a kind of a pre-runner, if you will, to this book, Digital Warfare. Because I wrote Societal Shift right as we're beginning to realize the impact of the entire world coming together. Now, why I want to do this is not to scare you, and I certainly don't want you to become a helicopter parent, although I do believe it's important to set parameters. But you're going to find in this book that I'm not against technology. In fact, I think that this is more important than ever before, that we step back and start to have informed discussions with your young person about how the technological world is changing. And I say informed, that's the reason why I encourage you to read the book first so that you understand what is happening. As most of you know, I feel very, very strongly that this is the first generation in all of history that will be able to reach the entire world, and the entire world can reach that child. And we're only 70% connected right now. So what is happening is literally you're finding out that overseas people are reaching our children, and in a big way. It's interesting. Most people aren't aware that the biggest reporting hotline, now there are multiple reporting hotlines, FBI and Homeland Security and like that, but National Center for Missing Exploited Children, called NCMEC, they take most of the calls. And what they've seen is an absolute explosion in the number of reports. Now, I'm going to just throw out some numbers for you so that you can get an idea that this is a serious matter. And I want you to understand that nobody is going to be able to protect your child if you do not. It's that simple. If you do not inform yourself and then sit down and have informed discussions with your children, then nobody is really going to be able to protect your child. So what has happened in the last few years is that the world connected by internet. This is why we wrote the book. And at the same time, there are several new technologies, about 6 of them that we identify, that came at the same time the world is globally connected. If your child went online 5 years ago, they were on there with mostly people from the United States. But in the last 5 years, as the world is connected, they are now on there with more than 5 billion other people and growing every day. And that's only 70% of the world. As time goes by, many of the poor countries that have not yet come on will be coming on. And they have the same technology we have now because it's spreading around the world. You look at our tech companies, your big, what is called electronic service providers, ESPs, and these are huge, huge organizations. And they have literally millions and billions of followers. And that means that your child is going to live in that environment. So one of the things that happened is that NCMEC began to track the number of reports. They'd been doing that all along. But as the world connected by internet, the numbers grew enormously. Before they really started realizing what the impact of global connection was, they were processing about 4 million reports a year, 4 to 5 million. And that's still one scary amount of reports. I don't remember what that comes down to, but it's like 10,000 a day. But then the laws changed and the technology changed. The made it so that electronic service providers can literally go in and scrub their platforms. We began to see that long about 2020 with the Pornhub case. And they literally went in and scrubbed their platform and found out that originally they had 13 million videos on Pornhub. It was the largest in the world. But they were being sued because there were many minors that said that their photo appeared on their website and they wouldn't take it down. So MasterCharge and Visa said, okay, we're not going to allow the credit card processing on this site anymore till they go through and find out anything that has an underage child on it and take it down. And that was one of the first times we realized that ESPs, electronic service providers, really had the capability to scrub a platform at any given time. Well, the end of the story is that Pornhub went in and scrubbed their platform in 5 days. They found out that over 9 million of their videos I won't say they all did, but may have images of minors in illicit situations. And so they had to take them down. Almost 2/3 of their whole inventory had to come off the air. But it told us that they had the technology to do it. And it also told us just how big this was. You see, the laws are running along trying to catch up with this. And this is the reason why you see an organization like Million Kids educating you, mom and dad and teacher and pastor and coach and everybody that we can, because the laws don't catch up with it fast enough. So what you're starting to see now is they went from like 4 million over to 36 million. Now, what happened is that they got 15% of the top ESPs that literally were forced to scrub their platforms. But that's only 15%. And when they did, they found millions upon millions upon millions of images of underage kids that are either sexual or nude or nudified, or maybe they're a deep fake. We don't know, but they were forced and encouraged to take them down. The law says they had to take them down, but only 15% of them did, and they still ended up at 36 million. So does that scare the socks off you? That's 80,000 a day. I share that with you, mom and dad, because if you're waiting for law enforcement to protect your child, when all of this happens, you need to know that no law enforcement agency in the United States can process 80,000 claims a day of potential child sexual abuse online. So we better start at home so that less children are involved in it, and less children send a nude, and less children get blackmailed, and even less children have their lives end in a tragic manner. So one of the things that I wanted you to be able to see, and the reason I wrote this book, is it isn't just that the whole world is connected by internet, but we have things like geolocation software. When your kid goes on one of those dating sites, they know exactly where they're at and how close they are from them. We have global money transfer. Your kids have been transferring money online long before you did, okay? And they know how. Why is that so important? That was literally more than 70 to 80% of these reports originating offshore. It has very quickly come to the attention of cartels all over the world that the way to get rich is to blackmail an American kid, and especially an American male. And it is absolutely brutal, absolutely brutal. And this is exactly how all of this is taking place. And that is why we're writing Digital Warfare. I want you to be an informed parent. My vision is this. Many of you grew up already, many of you that are young parents, you already are technologically informed. But it's interesting to see how quickly all this has changed in the last 4 or 5 years, and how little parents really know about this. How about the word Group 764 that targets teenagers? Are you aware of who they are and what they do? Those are all the kinds of things that are in this book, whether it's a paperback or an audio version. It is a way for you to educate yourself. You see, I believe that a child does not want to be violated. I also know that every teenager I ever met says, it's not going to really happen to me. And I'm going to know, but they are not educated yet on how the world changed. Yes, they're educated on watch out for hackers and things like that, but nobody's really sat down to them and explained to them how the world changed. And I would love to make this into a movie so that every young person around the world could hear this information about how this happens and why it happens and why parents need to know. You see, you will find out in reading this book that one of my desires is that you put away the wagging finger as a parent, and you sit down with your child and go, I read this book and I'm just kind of blown away by what I hear. And I'd like you to hear it or read it or see it, or at least read parts of it with me. And I'd like to get your feedback on some of these subjects, because most kids do not get the big picture, and parents get it even less. That if they're going online, it is no longer just their buddies and social media. It's interesting when I read all of these cases of financial sextortion, because one of the things that I know from research is that 1 out of 6 boys or males and 1 out of 7 girls, I'm talking about mostly teenagers here, have sent a nude online. It's just a way of life. In fact, what happens there is that they will send a nude, or somebody will send them something, And instead of it being what it should be of red flag, run, baby, run, you're about to be trapped and you might be being trapped from someone from a Nigerian telemarketing scam, they see it as an invitation to return a nude. And that's how quickly it happens and their lives are changed. Now, these aren't bad kids. I mean, most of the kids that have done this, I would guess, have probably never sent a nude in the first place. But they make it look good and they make it look simple. You know, it's almost always a friend of a friend, and they seem like they know them. Well, that's because people overseas build portfolios on our kids, and they are targeting some of the most accomplished kids you ever saw, kids that are known for their sports, or maybe they're being recruited by some team, or they're getting a scholarship or recognition, or they're a homecoming king. The very fact that there are constantly information about them makes them even more vulnerable. And they will come at just that one moment when a kid who would normally never do this gets caught. And that doesn't make him a bad kid. That just makes him a kid that's uninformed. And I'm setting about to change that. When I listen to the parents of all these kids, and there are over 40 of them, and amazing kids, when I listen to them say, I never heard of financial sextortion. I never knew how this worked. And I don't think that my son or my daughter knew either. I say to myself, never again. This is only information. We're not having to develop a serum, an injection, a vaccine. We don't need any of that. All we need is informed parents and informed leadership in the United States and informed teenagers. Because one of the things that's happening here is literally if our teenagers can get informed, you see, the reason this is so urgent to me and why I wrote this book is that I believe that how we train this group of teenagers will set the stage for generations to come. This is the first generation of kids that can reach the entire world and has nudify sites and has financial extortion and has E2EE. They're the first generation. And we have to get this right. How we train this generation will set the stage for the next generation and the next generation and the next generation. So we cannot afford to take any kind of chances. We need the most informed generation that ever happened. I kind of equate this, and you may think I've gone off the deep end, but I don't think I have. I kind of equate it when they developed cars, and all of a sudden the kid isn't at home where you can keep an eye on him. That kid is out moving 30, 40 miles an hour and he won't be home till dark. And how's that going to work out? And how do I know how to train him to make good judgments when he's out with millions of other people that I can't influence? Well, that's what we're doing when we put our kids on the World Wide Web. Okay. And that's exactly what we're doing. This is, in fact, the World Wide Web. We went from just being social media and interacting with people we know and making friends and having a friend of a friend. And all of a sudden, people sitting in Nigeria, in Myanmar, in Pakistan, in the Ivory Coast, they can use artificial intelligence and based on the information they've already gathered about the child, look like a friend of a friend and look like they know them. And they will lure them in to doing something they most normally would never do. And we need to get out in front of it. It is absolutely unnecessary. This is a conversation, but the challenge is, mom and dad, I need to educate you. And grandma and grandpa, you need to be educated. We need to be able to sit down with kids and go, you're the first generation that's ever been here. And while you're very, very smart, and I know you have a heart of gold and you would never want to hurt yourself or others, without the information, you cannot protect yourself. And that is why I wrote Digital Warfare. I want kids to be able to protect themselves and then start to protect the next generation. And not only do I want the parents to be able to share it with the young people, I want the young people to be able to share it with the parents without having to start out about how the world of internet even works. We need to get everybody up to speed. This is the only time in all of history that I can think of that we would literally place our kids on the front line of digital warfare. You see, that's exactly what it is. Your child is online with terrorist groups. They're online with gangs. They're online with cartels. And literally, it is gangs have been using social media for a long time to recruit girls into trafficking. And it will never look quite like a gang member. Gangs were the first to get encrypted messaging and E2EE, end-to-end encrypted messaging. We call it VPN, virtual private network. So what I'm asking you to do is find a way to purchase the book Digital Warfare. You know, if you want the type that you can just download on your computer, it's only $5, $4.95. You're not spending a lot of money. And you can simply go to millionkids.org and turn in and ask for the PDF version. I would caution you not to print it. If you're thinking you're going to print part of it, you may want to just go to Amazon and buy the paperback because the thing's 170 pages long and I don't want you all printing it. However, for the same price, you can also get the audio version and you can hear my voice reading to you and like that. And so I hope you'll take the time to do it. There is a lifetime of information in 170 pages. It will be worth every penny of it, I guarantee you. This will be information that you may never have heard of. And it is the fastest, easiest, and cheapest way to enter the world so that you are up-to-date parent, so that you understand and that you can talk intelligently about these kinds of crimes. So my name is Opal Singleton, OPAL, Singleton, SINGLETON. The organization is millionkids.org, MILLION, Million Kids, KIDS, millionkids.org. Go on there and, get your copy of the book, or you can go to Amazon and get an actual Kindle version or the actual paperback version. But I believe that it is really, really one of the most urgent and important investments you can make. And I hope you will use it as a tool to start a conversation with your child. You will see in there that I am the first to say, put your wagging finger away. Let's learn together, okay? And especially if you have one older child and then younger kids behind it, never has anything been so critical and urgent for you because your younger children are going to be living in a world that if you don't educate yourself now is going to be hard to catch up to. So I hope it's called Digital Warfare or Kids on the Front Line. You can get it at mainkids.org. You can get it at Amazon. So thank you for listening to this. Thank you to all the people who have donated money. If you want to support this work and help us get this information around the world, it is now in print, but it's going to take money to market it and get it out to teachers everywhere. I do a huge amount of public speaking, but this torch needs to be carried by leaders and concerned parents all across the nation and around the world. And I hope that you will do it. You are free to write to me at opal, OPAL, at millionkids.org. And I appreciate your donations at millionkids.org/donate. And we have also a P.O. box in there. If you're old-fashioned and you want to use checks, I appreciate those checks too. Thank you very much. I'll see you on the next podcast.